Yes, welcome everyone to the last day of September, and we are here in another community call of BrightID. And today was the last phase of claiming Bright from Fairdrop. Uh, is it the last one so far, or is it going to be the last one forever, Michael?
No, there will be one more. So the phase started today, which will go for 1 week, and then we will start another phase. And the
Hmm.
next one will be the last one. So if
Yeah,
you want to switch to Xstar, you should do it within the next week. That's your last chance.
yeah, but let's be clear that this fair drop is for people who used BrightID before. So this is like, it's cool to definitely bring your friends into BrightID because there will be a lot more exciting stuff coming up and more ways to earn different tokens from different apps. And BrightID wants to launch a rabbit hole campaign. They want to launch a faucet. So we have a bunch of cool stuff coming up, but the fair drop is not for new users. But we should still welcome new people, and there's lots of interesting stuff for the new people coming up.
Yeah. The latest date for just having a BrightID verified account, or no, the last date that you could have BrightID on your phone, even if you weren't verified on BrightID, was it September 18th?
Yeah, so September 18th is the cutoff date, but a lot of people got confused by that because they said, well, I created my account on September 7th, 17th or something like that. The problem is you don't just have to have created your account before September 18th. You had to have quickly done a bunch of steps before that September 18th cutoff. So you have to have made your first connection. You have to have done all the things that would earn you rewards, like set up social recovery, set up link to apps. And so there were a lot of people who maybe found out about the fair drop, which actually launched on the 16th, not the 18th, found out about the fair drop, quickly came over, tried to get signed up, get verified, and do everything, but they just maybe didn't link apps or didn't set up social recovery fast enough within those 2 days. Really, the reason why we gave those 2 days grace period was for people who had used BrightID a long time ago, maybe lost access to their account, but they wanted to come back and quickly start up again and maybe get some reward very quickly. But I will say that a lot of people came back or joined for the first time and didn't weren't able to get things like the social recovery or the linking of the apps done in time. And so I would say to those people, if you keep coming back to the claim site and you keep seeing no rewards yet, like come back the next claim period and you just keep coming back, I would say you're probably one of those people that was really close to the deadline and maybe just didn't get those actions in time. And I would stick around for the fair drop, or not, sorry, not the fair drop. Stick around for the faucet, stick around for the rabbit hole campaign, stick around for all the other apps that are going to be giving out rewards through BrightID, and welcome to our community. It's a great place to be. Welcome to our DAO, which is a brand new thing, which is we talked about last time. So yeah, don't run away because you didn't get something from the fair drop. Definitely stick around because there's a lot more to come.
This is a project that intends to run for decades or centuries and involve millions, if not billions of people. This is the very, very beginning.
I want to ask Adam to make it clear for everyone, because this is something that I think everyone, or we have seen some people asking us. Is there, because you and Michael were in charge of the fair drop and the smart contracts and making sure that everyone who is eligible is going to claim their Bright. And my question is there any chance in your mind that someone who is eligible, who has taken the steps, who has done the activities mentioned in the eligibility the page on our Git book, and has had a BrightID verified account before that time, is there any chance that there is a bug and someone would be eligible but cannot claim their Bright, or don't see some Bright to claim on the FairDrop page?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we started seeing so many people saying, well, I think I should have had some Bright coming to me, can you please check? I did check by hand. I'm one of the maybe two people that is able to do that. The other one is Michael. I checked about 15 different people by hand just because I just wanted to see, is there a bug? Is there a problem? I found out that in every single case that the answer that I came up with was the same answer that the FairDrop website came up with. I could always state a reason, like they didn't do a certain action that they thought they had done in time. So I always agreed with the FairDrop site. I never found something different than what the FairDrop site was saying. So because of that, we tell people the FairDrop is the source of truth. If the FairDrop site is not giving you tokens, there is the possibility, this was definitely more of a possibility early on. There was the possibility that you just needed to link and then wait till the next claim period. So if you're finding the FairDrop for the very first time, you just barely found it, then yes, go link and then come back in a week. I know that's a long time, but that's how we're doing it right now is link your BrightID, come back in a week, and you will have something to claim. And you won't know how much it is until you come back in a week. So that's a little frustrating. You're thinking, well, how much am I going to get? And so you link, you don't know. It doesn't tell you right away how much you're going to get. You have to come back in a week and then you see how much you're going to get. But if you've already done that a few times, if you keep coming back and you still don't see anything, the FairDrop is the source of truth. And if you already linked in a previous claim period, you came back and you still don't see something, it's because you missed the deadline on something. It thinks that and I'm sure I would find the same answer if I checked for you. It thinks that you did the action after the deadline. That's why it's not showing you anything to claim.
Is there a way to check how many people, and I mean the number of users, have claimed their Bright from the FairDrop and have some Bright in their wallet so far, and how many people we are still expecting to claim in the next the phases?
Yeah, do you want to see some statistics?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'll pull something up real quick, a chart that I can share. And while I'm doing that, maybe you can answer some questions. I see some people have their
Sure.
hand raised, so
Yes.
let me get that.
First one is I see a question asking how to get the AMA FairDrop. I am very curious about it. So this the AMA is happening every week on Thursdays. There is no connection between the FairDrop and AMA unless there were some POAPs that we distributed and you could have claimed some Bright based on the POAPs that you had received from the AMA, which was stopped for like 4 or 5 weeks ago that we stopped giving POAPs. So this AMA itself is not giving you more Bright from the FairDrop. So I hope that's clear.
Yeah, can I clarify something on that? So there was a period of 6 months earlier this year where we were giving out POAPs to people who came to the AMA call. If you came to those AMA calls and got some POAPs, then you got a reward. And this is one of the rewards that you didn't need to link your Bright. So there are a few rewards where you can just show up to the FairDrop and you'll see that you already have something to claim. Most rewards, if you're just showing up to the FairDrop for the first time, you link, then you have to wait. At the beginning, it was a day. Now it's extended to a week. You have to actually link and then wait a whole week before you even know how much you're going to get. But with the POAP AMA, if you came to one of the AMA calls during that 6 months period, you're going to get something immediately when you show up to the FairDrop. So if you didn't see it right away when you first came, you're not going to get it. That's just the way it works.
Cool. Let me see if I can see other questions. So we talked about the AMA one. It says, why many people don't get reward from fair drop? What's wrong with eligibility system? So as Adam was just mentioning, we had a list of criterias for being eligible for the fair drop, and a lot of that had to do with having a BrightID verified account and using that in different applications and having different activities. Uh, just for having a BrightID verified account up to September 18th would give you a small amount of Bright, but that's all the eligibility criteria that you had. You can check them on our Gitbook, but absolutely everyone who were eligible could claim their the Bright, and Adam were just mentioning that we have checked almost 15 people, and in none of those cases they claimed that they are eligible, but they weren't getting their Bright. But no,
Yeah. So I will say
in
that
each case we checked, and yeah, there was some activity missing on their side.
I just want to say that in every case, it's always a deadline problem, because people will say, I did rabbit hole, or I did get coin, or I linked some apps, or I did social recovery. And in every case that I've checked, where I did some spot checking just to make sure that there weren't any bugs. And in every case, it was always a deadline problem. They usually did the activity. There were a couple cases where they thought, oh wow, I really thought I did do this, but I can see that I actually didn't. But in most of the cases, they did it, but it was just a deadline problem. They did it, but they did it later than the deadline. We had to make deadlines for everything, and a bunch of people did the right activities. So thank you, great job. You're well on your way to being a BrightID power user. That's great. But we did have a deadline that we had to do for this fair drop. So I apologize to everybody that in some way did the actions after the deadline. And we will, like I said, there is a faucet coming up. There's a rabbit hole coming up. A lot of the same things that you did will apply. And so so it's not like you did it in vain and you should just give up and run away. You should take those things that you did, hold on to them, hold on to your BrightID account, make sure you set up social recovery so you don't lose it. And then just be looking out for all the new things that you'll be able to do with it.
And I'm really eager to focus on the new things. You know, the fair drop was a retrospective thing. It has happened. The code is there, and we're really excited about what the DAO can do going forward. That, you know, the Bright DAO didn't exist prior to this launch. Everything that happened before was related to what happened before. Now we have Bright DAO. We have a DAO with thousands of members that can help build this community and build this open source software. And that's really what I think we should focus on from now. We're glad to have gotten so many people involved in token ownership and governance of this project. But we got to focus on the future.
There's a question that is to what you were just mentioning, Philip. Someone is asking about our roadmap for the it's for the year and also the next year. Do you want to mention some of the milestones and activities that BrightID is gonna work on in Q4 and early next year?
So before we do that, I want to mention that our thinking about how things are going to get done has changed a ton because of BrightDAO. And so I would say that there's going to be at least as much activity coming out of BrightDAO in the next 6 months as there will be from our core team. So a lot of it is still to be decided. It's in the next month or two, things will be decided and planned that we just couldn't have on our roadmap. We just couldn't handle with the small team that we had. We now have a much bigger team. So even if we have a roadmap, which we do, which was actually for Q2, but now it's gonna take us till the end of the year to finish it. But that's just our core team. There's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff that's not even on that roadmap that's gonna get accomplished by BrightDAO. And I think Philip had something to add to that.
Yeah, most of it, I'd say they're right. BrightDAO does not have a roadmap yet. That is up to BrightDAO to create and to build. We have the Bright core team has been operating with a 15-person governance structure, and that entity will continue to love and support the BrightID open source software. BrightDAO is a new community of thousands of people that can work together to support and love the BrightID system. So there isn't a roadmap, but I look forward to what the community will decide its roadmap should be. And with that, I'll transition to, so yesterday, we received our first proposal into the DAO. It quickly passed because it was an awesome proposal. An outside team of very experienced, knowledgeable developers proposed to build an integration between BrightID and the Aragon tech stack, which also is the OneHive tech stack. And these qualified people wrote a good proposal, say, hey, we can build this integration, which is very valuable to the system. We can do it in 2 weeks. And very quickly, the community coalesced and said, yes, we want this integration built. That vote passed. They've already been paid the assets to do that work and are getting right to work. So hopefully 2 weeks from now, we'll have an integration that works with some really important governance tools that we already use, and now they'll be BrightID enabled. And the more that we can get the community to build awesome things like that, that's what's going to make BrightID successful. That's what's going to provide value to the Bright token. That's what makes this whole thing work. The flywheel of people building awesome things for the community that makes the community better, more valuable.
Yeah,
So
and so I'm ready. If you want, Paslar, I'm ready to share my screen with some statistics back to that other question. Do you want me to go ahead and do that?
Oh, sure. While
Okay.
you're loading that up, I just want to mention that,
yeah,
there is a roadmap that the core team might have in mind.
Yep.
But Philip, Philip said, the roadmap of the BrightDAO and the activities that they are able to do based on their proposals is just infinite. People can make all kinds of proposals, and other people can vote them in, and they can start working on their ideas and activating them.
And those things will be more exciting. The stuff on the BrightID core team roadmap is super important, but from a non-technical standpoint, it's boring. It's not exciting. It's not right. We know it needs to happen, and we're glad to have smart devs working in doing that because it matters behind the scenes, but it is mostly behind the scenes stuff.
Right. So what I'm showing here is someone asked, like, how much has been claimed, how much is left to be claimed. So we had 6.5 million that was available to be claimed, and this is these blue bars are mainnet, and the red bars are XDAI chain. So other than these spikes, which are these come from very large subholders, which are usually actually DAOs themselves, which ended up with also claiming large amounts of Bright. So example, BMain was probably responsible for 200,000 of the Bright that was claimed on that day. But other than that, the numbers are steadily going down. And you can see we have you can see how much has been claimed for each round, and there's still 30% remaining. So we talked about even reaching out to some of the larger recipients personally, if we can figure out who they are, and encouraging them to come and claim. Like I said, some of them are DAOs. We had investments from DAOs like the Lao and B-Main. So and Metacartel DAO, Metacartel Ventures DAO. So there's some investment DAOs that invested in BrightID, and they're getting some Bright from the subs that they bought. So that's part of this. Anyone else who bought subs, anyone could buy subs. That was open for a while. Anyone who got that got a pretty decent Bright reward. And as you see, the sub staking is also going to continue to pay out kind of like in a sort of a vesting schedule for people who had subs. So anyways, you can see how that's working. I also wanted to show the roadmap, which was Q2. The thing that kind of happened right around the time we launched this roadmap is we had like some people from our team brought forth the initiative, and also community members saying, hey, we want to do a community token. Can we launch a community token? We think it'd be really valuable to BrightID. So actually, I would say at least half of our team's resources got diverted to working on the community token. And so it actually slowed down our roadmap. But here's our core team roadmap. And I'll tell you what we've already accomplished. So node discovery, nodes, clients can find the best node to use. So before, we had other people running BrightID nodes, but people that were using the mobile app weren't actually even using these nodes. They were all using node 1, which is the BrightID node. And the other nodes were just kind of just sending data to each other, but mobile app users weren't actually even using those nodes. Now we have, I think, 7 different nodes that are being used by people. So that was something that was important that we accomplished. We have been actively working on anti-Sybil. I wouldn't say that we're done with this, with either of these anti-Sybil pieces of the roadmap. There's still more to do, and a lot of it has to do with the Aura game that's coming out. The Aura game is really interesting, and you'll hear more about it, but the Aura game is a new way to create a smaller, more compact helper graph that in turn helps people to get verified. It's a much better but still predictable way to get verified than connection parties. So that's the future. It'll basically, what it'll look like for a user of BrightID is that instead of going to a connection party, connecting with random people and some random host that you don't know, instead of searching for a connection party, you're going to be searching for someone that you do know in some community that supports BrightID in some way, and connect. That person is going to be your helper and is going to get you verified. So it'll be a much more personalized experience for verification, and our helper graph is going to be the way that we do that. So that's a big piece of our anti-Sybil. So when Aura is revealed, you're going to get a better picture of how this works. Blind signatures, we finished that. This makes it so that people are we already have really good privacy with BrightID, but this makes it even better so that there's even less chance of a data leak causing people to be linked between the different apps that they use, where maybe your persona in one app is now linked because of a data leak to some persona in another app you were using. We definitely want people to be able to remain pseudonymous when they're using BrightID. You should never have to share your name or any information about yourself with an application that you're using in BrightID. If an app does ask you to do that, be very careful. It doesn't have to do with BrightID. Maybe the app wants you to share something about yourself for some other reason, but always be very careful about that. And BrightID will never require you to do that. And then multi-device support. A lot of people have requested this. They've said, okay, social recovery, yeah, I see why I should do that, but what if I just want to like back up everything on my laptop or back it up on a second device so that if I lose access, I can just easily recover? And you'll notice that Google and Discord and a lot of other apps and Firefox already allow you to do this. And this is something that we want to do with BrightID. So it's kind of like a quicker way to recover than social recovery. And also, it's not as authoritative. So if you do, let's say someone steals one of your other devices and tries to hijack your account, you can still override that with social recovery. So it's still really important to set up social recovery, but we've got this multi-device support that's coming out, and Aura will be one of the first apps that uses that multi-device support. You don't have to be an Aura user, but anyways, that's something you'll be able to do. You can back it up on other devices and other apps. You can back up your BrightID. We have been improving our security all along. So I think that we're probably I think we can definitely check off the box on 2 of these, and maybe the other ones are still kind of like in progress. I would say that every single one of these things on our roadmap is at least in progress. And like I said, I think the core team just by itself should be able to finish this by the end of the year. So yeah, we're about halfway into this. Anyway, so that's our roadmap, but expect a whole bunch of other things. I mean, we already pushed through something in BrightDAO that is not even on this roadmap. It's going to be done in 2 weeks, and it's not even our core team doing it. So expect a huge increase in the amount of things like that happen in BrightID. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing now. Oh, by the way, I want to say that if you want to look up that roadmap I was just looking at, you can check out our Medium. Just search for BrightID on Medium, and you'll find our Medium blog where we have some articles like that.
I'm gonna share the link to that to our Medium in a second. Just bring it out the link so that everyone can take a look. There you go. Okay. I saw a number of questions asking about different applications and how they cannot link their BrightID to those applications. I want to say that so far as BrightID side, I think if you are joining connection parties and are verified on BrightID and you have linked your the app to several applications, but you happen to have a problem with like some application, the best way to fix that and find a solution for that is reaching out to the team of that application. So if you have a problem with uh, Rabbit Hole or Gitcoin and like all the other applications are working fine, that's a signal that BrightID app is working fine, but there might be a problem on the other side. So I encourage you to get in touch with them, explain the problem, and hopefully there's going to be a way to find a solution for that problem. There are also lots of questions about still the fair drop and how they cannot get they're bright, or it's showing that they're not eligible. As we covered this before, we are almost perfectly sure that there is no bug, and you might be missing something, some deadline that you think that you have done those activities before the deadline, but it happens to be a problem somewhere that you haven't met the deadline and you're not eligible. We have checked into this, and there's no chance that this is something that might be a bug from our side. This is an interesting question for me. It says, what are the new chances and activities to get bright?
That's a good question. So I will say that if you've done the achievements in your BrightID app that are in the left menu, that's a really good start. Also, be on the lookout for higher verification levels. So right now, when you go to a connection party, you get this low level verification, which works for some of the apps, but expect some higher verification levels where you have to do more. And I kind of talked about the helper graph, where you find a helper who is in a community, has some, I guess, some helper power. It'll become more clear once you see the Aura game, but the people who are using the Aura game to gain helper power for themselves, those people will be someone that you find, and you'll be able to get a higher verification level. That is another way. So those are the types of things that you should be looking for or doing to get more of the rewards. Also, many of the apps have rewards in themselves. Like if you go to, a simple one is the ID chain ED faucet. If you go there, you're gonna get a small amount of ED to be able to use the ID chain blockchain. I expect that ID chain will become more important. It is the blockchain that BrightID runs on right now. I expect it to become more important once BrightDAO creates some initiatives to make the ID chain much better. So I would definitely look into the apps and see what they have to offer you already. And just be looking for, just pay attention to the Discord. We'll keep everyone updated when there's some new thing you can do to earn more rewards or claim more Bright.
Cool. Someone says helper graph. I don't know where he
Yeah,
heard
so the
of it.
helper graph is a new
Okay.
thing that I'm kind of leaking for the first time. I mean, we've talked about Aura before in community calls, but if you think of BrightID as a graph, and what a graph means is just a connection between different things. In this case, it's a connection between different people. So when people make, you may have heard the term social graph before. So when people make connections with each other, they're building a social graph. And the graph is just, you can think of it as a bunch of dots. If you've ever looked at explore.brightid.org, you can, there, it just shows you a bunch of dots, like who you're connected to. And you can see there's a bunch of dots with lines connecting the people. That's called a graph. And so we're building, BrightID is building a social graph, but it's also building a helper graph. And what a helper graph is, not everybody is going to want to go deep enough into BrightID to become a helper, but some people will. Some people are going to say, okay, I've gotten BrightID verified, I've done what I need to do, but now I want to go further. I want to see how else I can use BrightID, and I want to help some other people get verified. And there's going to be a new application called Aura, which is designed just for people who want to become helpers, kind of on their own schedule, on their own terms. They get to start working with other people and helping them. And as they help other people, they acquire better reputation in Aura. So the reason it's called a helper graph is because the helpers are evaluating each other. And that's how we make sure that we have good helpers and not bad helpers. Bad helpers could be someone that's maybe using their helper status to create Sibyls. The way that we keep the helpers of a high quality is we have the helpers connect to each other. We see how the helpers are connecting to each other, and the helpers have a different way of rating each other than a normal BrightID user has of rating another BrightID user. When you make a BrightID connection to another BrightID user, you get to choose between how well you know them. You get to choose whether you just met them, whether you've already known them, or whether this is someone suspicious, you weren't expecting them to connect to you. When helpers are connecting to each other, they do a much richer, more detailed review of each other. So a helper could say, well, I think this other helper is honest, or I think they're dishonest. I think that they're doing a good job of being a helper, or I think they're doing a bad job of being a helper. Those types of answering those types of questions. And that forms a different graph, which is the helper graph. And then to get this higher verification level, all you need to do is find a helper, someone who's working within the helper system. You just find someone like that, connect to them, and they will get you verified. They will make sure that you have everything you need to get this higher verification level. So that's the new way of doing things, which is much more in line with how we wanted BrightID to operate. we don't want it to be some centralized thing where you have to come to like a certain designated place to get verified. That's not the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work through the people that you already know. And ideally, there should be enough communities and places where the helpers are that anyone can find someone within their existing communities. They can find someone who's acting as a helper that can get them verified. That's the helper graph.
Uh, in your mind, and also Philip, because you've been working on Aura for some time now, when do you think is going to be the launch time, and when are you planning to have it in place so helpers can start activating on Aura?
Hopefully next month. And it will start off as a small experiment with probably largely sort of among the existing BrightID stars, but that will help empower each individual that's in that to start letting some of their power and influence spread through the system. So Mono Mesa has been a long time star, and his friend Navarro came in, and now Navarro is now a BrightID star as well. But in the future, the fact that Mono had a whole lot of trust and faith in Navarro, in the future through the Aura game, he would just be able to sort of transfer some portion of his power to Navarro, and then Navarro can start becoming more of a helper. So we'll be able to continue to spread trust through the network, grow the helper graph. We're not going to try to grow the helper graph super fast because we need it to stay really, really strong, but it can be much bigger than the existing number of stars. Today, there are 121 people that can help you get verified in the whole world. We know it needs to be way more than 121, and we don't want to be in the middle of deciding who those next 1,000 or 10,000 people should be in that role. And it will be for the community to slowly disperse that trust among itself.
Cool. Some people are asking about the AMA having a reward. This is not something that we have planned for. And yeah, maybe in the future we can put a vote in the Bright DAO, and this is something that people might like. But so far, we don't have that plan for the AMAs.
And Pascal, what I would say in general is going forward, all the decisions about how Bright enters the world is up to the DAO. As a DAO voter, my intention is to vote yes on things that provide more value than they cost. So we talked about the proposal that was made for an integration. I think that the value of that existing is wildly in excess of the cost.
I see.
Just giving Bright away for no reason other than to give it away is maybe not wildly valued more. That said, bringing new people in has value. Rewarding helpers that help grow BrightID, that educate people about BrightID, make content about BrightID. But the DAO is going to be looking for work in exchange for tokens for the most part.
Yeah, work and participation. So, I mean, I actually think it is valuable when people come to a call like this. And I would say there will definitely be retroactive rewards for participation. So I would say pay attention to the Discord and the sorts of things that we recommend that you do. This is something that we had been doing for months leading up to the fair drop. If you're a longtime BrightID user, you know this, that we would constantly recommend that people do things. We would say, hey, look, there's a new Gitcoin round. You should go get your trust bonus. Or we would say, oh, look, there's a new rabbit hole campaign. You should link your BrightID to rabbit hole. Or we would say, social recovery is really important. Make sure you set up your social recovery. And if you were listening carefully and doing the things that that we suggested, then those are the things that we came back and rewarded people for their participation. So I would say if you want to figure out what BrightDAO, and again, like Philip said, it's moving out of our hands and moving into the hands of the DAO. But we as the long timers that have been around with BrightID for a long time, we know we can recommend things that you should do, and those are things that BrightDAO could come back in the future and reward you for. So if you're paying attention, I'll just call out a couple of those things in case you haven't noticed. But we are asking people to look at the DAO, to look at the proposals, to wrap their tokens, and you actually get rewards right away for wrapping your Bright tokens. But look at the things that we're recommending that you do right now, and those are things that you will likely get rewards for in the future.
I would say, yeah, this is a wide open DAO, that there isn't hidden privileged information. So we can say things like, right, we're suggesting to do things that will make for a healthier DAO and a stronger BrightID. And it would stand to reason if there were proposals in the future for the DAO to reward the kind of behavior that makes for a strong DAO, I would personally vote for that kind of thing, because that's the kind of DAO that I want to be part of.
I think to add what you just said, learning about the BrightDAO and thinking about ideas to improve BrightID is the best way to participate and make BrightID better. I'm sure lots of people have some Bright in their pockets right now, and making BrightID better will not only grow that Bright, and it will also help with the price, because I saw in the chat some people were mentioning the prices, and I don't think it's a good idea to talk about prices, but the better BrightID gets, the better the price of that Bright. So this is all in our hands right now. With the BrightDAO launch, we are reaching out to the community and asking for the great potential. As Adam mentioned, the things that BrightDAO and the people in there can do is much more than everything that the core team can do. The core team is going to focus on the important, essential things to keep BrightID running, but everything else is all in the hands of the community and what ideas they have in their mind. I actually have a question for Michael. Someone asked, when is the next update of BrightID app gonna be? And they said that the last update that they see is from February 15th. Is that right? Like the last version that we had was from February?
Well, it depends. It is right in a sense, because that was the last time we updated the app version in the app stores. But the app is constantly being updated over the air. So without requiring any new update from the Play Store, the app will check at the initial start, is there a new version available? And so it will update itself. So I think the version in the Play Store was starting at 4.2 or so, and we are in the meantime, if you look at the app version, we are at 4.6 point something. So the app is kept up to date even without publishing updates in the Play Store itself.
He's pushed many updates. That's in the Keybase channel see them, and there was just one that went live today, tweaking some little things that most users wouldn't notice. There's a fun new one that everyone could look at. Is if you look in the bottom corner of your BrightID app down here, it now says which node you're connected to, which Adam was talking about before. So it used to be that everyone connected to one single node, and now everyone's connected to the node that is close to them and behaving well. So if everybody here looked, you'd see we're connected to a variety of different BrightID nodes.
Yeah, so usually we only do updates on the Play Store or on the App Store when there is some incompatible update of the app. But all the small changes we constantly do, they are compatible, so there's no need to update in the stores itself.
Please take care. Don't open up the link in the chat. This does a scam link. Please don't do it. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but
No worries. There was a link in the chat. Yeah, I'm looking for it, not to
Well,
click on it.
there's a link that's also open. We can just delete that. No,
Okay.
I think if you're talking about the BrightID, I think someone was just showing like, oh, this is the node that I'm connected to. I don't think they were trying to post a link that someone could click on.
okay, but please don't post any links in the
Yeah,
chat
don't post
because
any links.
yeah, it's really dangerous.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to give a shout out to the community itself. We are looking for people who like BrightID and want to help others enjoy BrightID and the fair drop and the Bright token better. We've seen people in the community on Discord and also in connection parties that give a hand to the host and help with the questions that people ask on Discord. Just want you to know that you are being recognized. We are watching you. The way that who's the guy says that I'm watching you, and yeah, the more you
In a non creepy way, we're aware of the good things you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, if you want to help us in the connection parties, just show up and hang out in the connection parties, help others have a better experience. That's actually how a lot of us got to be the connection party hosts and BrightID stars. Lots of us just kept on showing up in the connection parties and we hung out and we helped others and answered questions, and then step by step we became BrightID stars, and we are now hosting the connection parties and are like BrightID stars and admins in Discord. So if you have the time and if you like the project and you want to help the community have a better experience, never hesitate to answer questions, never hesitate to show up in the connection parties and help others. And yeah, you're gonna be a BrightID star and a helper pretty soon. Just yeah, keep showing up and helping others. Cool. I think we are close to the hour. I just want to ask if there is anything anyone wants to talk about, or is there any questions that we haven't covered in the call? I'm gonna see the chat, and if there is anyone who wants to ask a question, let me know. Otherwise,
Oh, I want to say one quick thing. Please
please.
don't send direct messages to admins. They're not going to be
Please.
able to answer you, and they may block you, which might make it hard for you to ask your question in the regular Discord channel. So please just be patient and use the regular Discord channels if you need to ask questions to Discord admins.
And the people that are administering the Discord, they're putting in a ton of work to support this community. We've added thousands and thousands of people in all sorts of different languages all over the world. It's a challenging to make everyone feel comfortable and get their questions answered. We're doing the best we can. It's a small team. There's not big VC money behind any of this. This Bright token was given to everyone, sold to no one. So
A big shout out to Ashraf and to Carlos and to Victor and Sergey in the connection
Bitsika,
parties. Bitsika is here?
I know, but I want to give him a shout out because he
Oh,
does
sure.
such good work in the
Yes.
Discord.
Yes. So yeah, thank you everyone. Oh, and on Telegram, we have a channel on Telegram. We don't have a group. And direct messages on Telegram to admins, will never be answered. Just Discord is the best way to get in touch with us and get support, and the Telegram channel is just for the announcements, and you're gonna see announcements in there. So yeah, with that said, I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Michael, for being here and answering the questions. I hope everyone has a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.